Hey guys, good morning. Today is Tuesday. I don't know, what is today? The 27th. I think it's February 27th, 2024. And I'm just heading out here into the Costco greenhouse, and I am mixing up another batch of fresh soil so I can get the soil nice and warmed on the top shelf, because later today I'm actually starting pepper seeds. I've already started to pack up cells to start my Snapdragons. I have 3 varieties of Snapdragons I'm starting today. I am up potting brassica. I have lupin seeds soaking after several weeks of cold stratification that will go in today. And my friend Dusty reminded me inadvertently that I forgot to sow my celery, and I also have to start a flat of lettuce. So today is going to be busier than I actually thought, but I thought I'd bring you in for a peek to see what it is that my process is going to be and what varieties of peppers I will be starting. I have a lot. It will fill up an entire tray. I wish that I had the bigger greenhouse, you guys. I totally do. But this is what I have to work with. So this is what we're going to do. I'm listening to some music today. Today's playlist, I started with Ambrosia for you back in the day folks who can appreciate that music. So I'm not sure what I'm going to move on to next, but I'm going to show you, I'm going to turn you around and show you what I have going on with this soil. Right now, I just moved a bunch of the potting mix soil that I'm grabbing, the organic potting mix from Miracle Grow that I get at Costco. I'll be mixing it with some peat moss and Miracle Grow perlite. You can use any brand, but I'm going to get this batch of soil from Miracle Grow is very, very dry and full of a lot of roots and cocoa coir and yucca. So it's already nice and fluffy, but I like to add the perlite for moisture retention and the peat moss for good drainage and breakdown. So I'm going to add that in now. All right. So where is my perlite? So I just added some peat moss to this. I'm working in a small space, so I can't really have you on while I do everything. But for those of you who are interested in mixing your own potting mix soil, it's really not that hard. The peat moss really benefits in the drainage and keeping it moist, as well as adding the perlite. So just don't forget, you guys, when you mix this on your own, make sure you add water to your mix. Now, I like to do this in just a container that I can put a lid on and just keep it in the greenhouse. Now, last year I did this where I was measuring things out and counting cups, and you learn to eyeball it. So, you know, again, basically your perlite is important because it retains moisture and helps in drainage. I think it's a critical part, personally, but that's just for me, because I'll never tell anybody what I think you should do. I just tell you what works for me. So I like to mix it in until I can see it disperse through, and then as I start to add soil to it, I'm just going to pick it up and press it out and make sure it clumps up, but we don't want it to turn into a seeping wad of like just muddy soil. We want it to have good drainage and stick together. You know, it's kind of like making a cake. You learn what and making bread, you learn what your dough should feel like and how much ingredients that you're supposed to add. So I'm going to finish getting this mixed up. I think I'm going to add, I don't know. No, I think I have enough perlite. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding a little bit of water. So we're not hooked up to water here for the greenhouse. So I just bring a container in with me. And again, you start to learn how much water to add. It just becomes second nature. So funny how you just, you get some headspace to yourself and you work through a process like building soil and packing cells, and you find a quiet little place for yourself in the world to come do this where there's no interruptions and your mind starts to wander. And, I was thinking about how I make these videos and the things that I speak to you guys about, and how I'm always trying to remind everyone that we consider ourselves students of the garden. And I don't really feel like a teacher. I just feel like we should all learn together. I think we benefit that way, being on an even playing field versus, someone, representing themselves as like a teacher. So really, we're all gardeners. We're all in it together. But anyway, as I was thinking about that, And some of the things I hear on these channels with the things that people are teaching, and I think to myself, I would never do that. And a moment ago, I was telling you what I was listening to with music. It's funny how the universe reminds you where you are, because after I moved on to my next playlist, which was the Bee Gees, I got into listening to the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. And then all of a sudden, as I'm thinking about people talking smack on these channels, the song Jive Talking came on by the Bee Gees. So there's a little earworm. I just played it for you guys. So you guys from a certain time, you know, you'll be singing Jive Talking by the Bee Gees all day long. All right, so no more jive talking right now. So I just packed these cells, and for me, this again is my second go round. I sewed flowers last week in one of the starter kits from Bootstrap, and I should mention those flower seeds germinated in 2 days. So right now I packed it with the soil that I just mixed. I'm going to put its heat dome on it. I'm going to leave it out here in the greenhouse to heat it up, because for me this year the green cell represents tomatoes. So, or not tomatoes, peppers. Now peppers like it warm, you guys. They like to go into warm soil, and in my opinion, soil that is too cool can cause a problem. I've sowed my own peppers for several years now, and I've learned that if I have potting soil out here in the yard and it's just sitting someplace and the soil is cool, it may feel like a nice day out there, but the soil will hold its cool temperature. So peppers like it hot, and I am not starting these on a heat mat. If you have a heat mat, you might be okay, but you might want to heat your soil, or not heat it, but warm it up before you actually put your seed in there. So I'm warming the soil for the peppers out here in the greenhouse. Later on, once I see that this dome starts to pick up a little bit of condensation, I'll know that it's warm inside, and then I'll go ahead and I'll sow my pepper seeds. I'll tell you, once the seed sowing season really kicks in, I mean, you could just work all day, and just sitting and going through everything and going through your inventory. I have a huge variety of seeds that I'm sowing this year, more than ever, mainly because I'm adding a ton of flowers. So a lot of them I can direct sow, and I should have direct sowed some of them, but I was saying earlier in another video, I kind of need to know where everything is, because Farmer John is such a good weeder. But things like this, Nigella, Love in the Mist, Midnight Nigella, I can't wait to see these. They're saying that they don't really like to be disrupted, but what are you really supposed to do? I mean, you could start them in a bigger pot and try to not disrupt them. So I think I'm going to do a combination. I'm going to sow them next to some flowers that I know are already coming up. Yeah, right. I'm going to make a mental note that I planted Nigella seeds, and I'll know whether it was Miss Jekyll or Midnight, because early in the morning I think I can achieve way more than I actually can. So I'm going to start a separate cell for them as well, so I can see what happens. There's some things you have to sacrifice with seeds. You have to try it and see if it works. One thing I know for certain works is starting Tall Deluxe Snapdragon from Baker Creek directly into cells. I did these in the cheap Jiffy seed starter kit last year, and just about every cell germinated, and then they produce a ton of seeds. So these are just a portion of last year's seeds that I decided to start grabbing. And Farmer John said, why don't you do it by color and then label the seeds according to which color flower you took it from? And while that was a phenomenal idea, I was so overwhelmed, I just didn't take the time to do that. So before I realized I was going to capture all of those seeds, I had already ordered another pack because I love it so much. So I'm going to start more of the Tall Deluxe Snapdragon. It's a tender perennial, but it actually held up with green leaves through the snow and the freeze and everything. So I'm going to be planting more of these dispersed through the new garden that we built where the daylily alley is. And I'm also adding this new variety, Black Prince. But I think I have this already mixed into my Tall Deluxe that I managed, to put an eye on it and say, wow, look at that beautiful flower. So again, I bought this last year before I knew what all these Snapdragons were going to look like. A new one that I'm adding this year from Swallowtail is Madam Butterfly Bronze. And these require a little bit of a different process according to their instructions. They like to germinate at 55 degrees, 10 to 21 days germination. But I'm going to have to take a chance. There's 50 seeds in here. I don't know if I'm going to start half or all. I don't really know. But all the Snapdragons are going to go together in this Jiffy starter. And this way I'll know what they are. And I'm certain that they're all going to germinate. But I'll be sure to check in with you so you can see as we go. Okay, so that was an example to pay attention to what you're doing. So I'm doing 4 rows of Madam Butterfly since there's 50 seeds in the pack. Maybe I'll do half. I don't know. Maybe I'll put 2 seeds into one cell. I'm not really sure. I'll see how they look when they come out. Madam Butterfly is a slightly different annual. The Tall Deluxe is a tender perennial. And the Black Prince, I believe, is also a tender perennial. So I'm going to go ahead and do this whole side here with the Tall Deluxe. I'm going to do 2 rows of the Black Prince and 4 rows of the Madam Butterfly. All right, so this is my second go round with a variety from Swallowtail, and I've noticed that they do thorough packaging. So it's triple packaging. I guess it's necessary. Look how tiny these seeds are, though, and the way they pack them. They're not pelleted. They just really make sure you can see them. So, yeah, I think I'm going to put 2 seeds per cell. So I'll be going through this entire pack. I don't know if it's 50 seeds or not. It might be, but we'll see. So that was a change of plans. Those seeds were so tiny and minuscule, I couldn't even really tell where they were dropping off to. I really strongly dislike it when that happens because it really tests my patience. But so I was only able to do 2 cells of the Madam Butterfly bronze. We'll see what happens with those. So now I'm increasing the amount, so it'll be 1, 2, 4 rows of the Black Prince, which are a much larger seed, and Madam Butterfly, we're going to just have to hope and pray that we get a couple out of it. They were expensive. All right. Wow, they were the tiniest seeds in the world. They were like as small as, poppy seeds. Not as small as pepper flakes, but this is really tiny. So these things like to be surface sowed. You can press them down a little bit, but you really don't have to, because if you go ahead and mist them in before you put your dome on, the stream of water just kind of pushes them down. For all you newbies starting, giving you a view of the shelf instead of the water getting pressed down. So we're all newbies at some point, but I actually feel like a newbie every single year. I find seed starting to be very, very stressful. I'm always afraid that I'm going to fail. I'm always afraid that I'm going to waste money on soil and seed starting materials. I'm afraid that I spent $6 for a pack of seeds and I'm not going to get a single flower. And then you go through the garden centers and you see how much one small cell of started flowers is. And I have mixed feelings because I know it's like, wow, that was expensive. Do they make money on this stuff? I don't know. Being a farmer or a grower of any sort is hard work. It's an investment of materials, and you have to be willing to try. There's going to be loss, and I try to remind myself of that every year. All right, so this has been hanging over me. I could have waited a little bit longer. They do germinate fairly easily, but I like to put them out when they're a little bit bigger, and I'm probably going to put them out earlier this year, knowing just how cold hardy they are. So here's another tray down. It's hard to get a little motivated when it's still February, but it's 70 degrees outside in New Jersey. It's not supposed to be 70 degrees here. I mean, it feels like St. Patty's Day is come and gone, and we're getting ready to hit April, and the weather is very, very intimidating because you want to start stuff when you know you shouldn't. Some of us are starting things that we probably shouldn't, like tomatoes or cold sensitive stuff. So right now I'm messing around with flowers and things that I know are a long germination period, like peppers. but I'm keeping them all in a climate controlled space. This is an unheated and unventilated greenhouse. So right now at this time of the year, I basically use it as a potting shed, place to warm up some soil, a place to get away from the screaming boys, and just you know, let myself stand out here and work. So that was how I sowed Snapdragon. So you guys, it's not that hard. Just give it a try. You don't have to use all of your seeds. Just remember some of these packets, they have 300 to 600 seeds in there because the seeds are extraordinarily tiny. They're going to pop all over the place. So remember what I said before. Try to sow these tiny seeds in a controlled environment where in case they pop off of your hands or out from under your fingernails, they'll land in a place where they won't cross sow with something else and get confused. So anyway, that was round one of today's tasks. I'll be going on to make other videos for you with everything else that I'm doing, and while I wait for my pepper soil to heat up. So anyway, guys, thanks for spending this time with me sowing Snapdragon seeds, and I'll see you in the next video.